going to jump in. Thank you very much. I hope you've had a nice coffee break. My name's Georgia Rakusen. I'm a freelance user researcher. I specialize in Web3 and crypto. I'm here today. I was asked to give a talk on the perspective from a user researcher working in the space. So this is kind of tales from the front line. I also work in the NEAR protocol space as well. So if you're building a NEAR, I'd love to come and talk about user experience in that space as well. My agenda, my personal vendetta, is to improve both the quality and quantity of user research taking place in Web3 by any means. So I'm hoping that some of what I'm going to tell you today in 5 minutes is going to spark the conversations later on in the conference. So some learnings. The first thing I want to just give a shout out is to all the designers working in the space right now, because you are heroes. It is an uphill battle, right? We like to think that we've moved on, right, from Web 2 to Web 3, but actually what we do sometimes within our organizations is Web 1 practices, which is really not give a shit about users and not doing any user research. And the fact of the matter is that, you know, in Web 2, the designers working in Web 2, they've had that uphill battle. They've been fighting for a seat at the table, for, you know, being peers with product management. Now you have chief experience officers, UX directors, etc. But why is Web3 different? It's a lot to do with being engineering-centric, not user-centric. We don't have all these billions of users using our products yet, so we're not scrabbling for market share of that stuff. I would also say that a little bit is about incentive models, maybe controversial, but sometimes incentive models are the wrong way in Web3 to build good products. So you don't need users to make money. That's a problem for trying to build user-centric products and for designers to be able to say, no, we need to do this user testing. No, this needs to work for these users. So I just want to say, I see you and I hear you and I want to help you. And research is a competitive advantage, so there is really not a lot of it going on. I want to remind everybody that when you're thinking about how to design your product, don't bother with competitor benchmarking, because they haven't done any user research either, I promise you, right? So go and do some user research first. The next thing I want to point out is when I asked people what I should talk about on this talk, a lot of people said, personas, what are the personas of Web3 users? There is a huge desire to know what this is and have these people in neat little buckets that we can then design for and marketing can use to sell to. But most personas I've seen in Web3 are crap. Honestly, they are. They're mostly made from assumptions, right? I stand corrected if you in this room have created a persona based on real user interviews, in which case, well done, please keep going. But the reality is that you probably have been given a persona, which is like a one sentence, a description of a DeFi power user or something like that, right? These are, what happens is they become really sticky and they get ingrained in the company, and it's hard to break that, right? Until you've actually done some user research. So they can become like a fact in the organization. I have not done ecosystem-wide user research about all the users in crypto and Web3. I'd love someone to fund me to do that. But some tips for you thinking about segmentation and how that works is maybe don't start with use cases like DAOs, NFTs, DeFi. Think about the person first. Those things are just things they do in relation to your product, but they're not necessarily the intrinsic needs and the jobs to be done. So I'm going to give you an example of like jobs to be done. Jobs to be done is a well-known product development framework. Let's give an example for, say, Spotify. You might say, well, the user's job to be done is listen to music. It's not. The user's job to be done is feel a certain mood. Get pumped up for my run. Go back to a time when I felt a certain way, right? So what is the user's job to be done in your product? It's not deposit X token. It's something else. Go and find that thing, and then you can design for it. So when you know the job to be done, you can really view your designs through that lens and apply that to your design and make something a lot more powerful. And while we're talking about user needs, I want to point out a theme that has emerged from a lot of the research that I've conducted. I've done like hundreds of interviews with Web3 users and crypto users, is the emotional state that people are in when they interact with your product, when they are moving in for the first time into the space. It's fear. Now, it's like, I don't want to be a bummer and like, you know, bring the optimism down, but we do need to think about this and be realistic. So fear in lots of different ways. Firstly, fear of missing out is the #1 driver for people entering the space. That person managed to do that thing. I wish I had done it sooner. I don't want to be the Bitcoin pizza guy. You know, NFTs are the thing. I must go and do that. That's what drives people. So we don't want to be the products that are perpetuating like FOMO, right? If we actually want to change how the internet works, then we should be thinking about designing for this. Fear of missing out, fear of making mistakes, fear of being hacked or scammed, fear of the unknown. This fear we should think about. So please do address it and think about it in your designs as well. And the last point I want to make is about users and who you talk to for your user research. So community is not always your users. And I'm sure there are people who agree, you know this already, but don't get sucked into the idea that these people who own your tokens, who are really loud in your Discord, are actually your end users. They're there for speculation purposes, and they're going to say really loudly what they think you should be doing. Have they done user research? Unlikely. So try not to focus on those voices so much. Teams can end up building just basically what the loudest people in the room say, and that's not very good. So my advice is to find users to test your product with who are outside of your community, who don't care, who are not in it because they want your product to succeed. You will find out a lot more about them. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Quick question from my end. It seems like you have the market kind of cornered as far as user research. I don't know too many user researchers in the space who have done that many projects. Maybe Hester has some say within Status and some other individuals. How do you see individuals in their organizations kind of advocating for research to kind of come into play? And have you navigated those conversations in the past? What kind of trends you've seen?
Quite a lot of teams really want to know how to get buy-in to do the activity in the first place. Yep. But that's been the same in like Web2 too, right? User research was catching up with UX design. And it's always the case of don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. So take a week off and go and do some user research, right? And if you can come back with something that's really useful, that points to a new signal, that's the best way, because these people otherwise, it's, for them, seeing is believing, and it's really hard to justify it when we all are paid to know what the user wants already.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Ooh.